All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're opening up the Scout's Notebook. We're not just talking about mock drafts. We're digging into the core principles that really separate the teams that win from everyone else.
And listen, that's not just my opinion. That's a cold, hard fact of the NFL draft. Every single year, guys who can change a franchise get passed over, all because teams are looking at the wrong things. The players who aren't blowing up on social media, they're often the ones who win you football games.
It all comes down to one thing: the ability to see future NFL production where other people just see a boring college player. It's about finding the signal in all that noise. And it starts with understanding a huge flaw in how most people evaluate talent these days.
You know, the biggest trap in scouting today is something I call the highlight reel fallacy. We've all become obsessed with that one spectacular play, that one viral clip, and we completely forget about the most important thing: consistent down after down execution. That's where football games are actually won and lost.
Think about it like this. Every single team has a choice to make. Are you drafting the hype, the social media clips, the one-off explosive plays, or are you drafting the tape, the efficiency, the consistency, the traits you know will translate to the pros? Let me tell you, the teams that are still playing in January, they live on the right side of this screen. So let's pull up our first case file and see how this works in the real world. We're going to look at a quarterback who is the perfect example of this whole idea: Georgia's Carson Beck. He's exactly the kind of prospect that gets lost in the hype.
Now, you're not going to see Carson Beck making tons of wild, off-balance throws that end up on highlight reels. But what the tape does show you is probably the single most important trait for any young quarterback coming into the NFL: elite poise and dead-on accuracy from a clean pocket. You know, when the play is actually run the way it's supposed to be. And this chart, man, this tells you everything. Look at the difference in his completion percentage when he's got a clean pocket compared to the average guy. That's not a small gap, that's huge. That is the bedrock of an NFL quarterback. While other guys might fall apart, Beck's consistency gives his offense an incredibly high floor to work from.
And this quote just nails it. The ability to just make the routine play over and over and over again. That's what keeps drives going. That's what keeps a quarterback in the league. Those crazy plays are a nice bonus, but the high percentage throws, that's your foundation.
So when you put them side by side, it's pretty clear, right? The flashy guy might get you some headlines, but his inconsistency is going to lose you games. The efficient guy, the Carson Beck type, he gives you a rock-solid base of execution that you can build your entire offense around.
Now, the same exact principle applies when we flip over to the defensive side of the ball. Real defensive impact. It's not always about sacks and interceptions. A lot of the time, the most valuable guys are the ones who just disrupt everything an offense wants to do before the play even gets going. Let's look at two fantastic examples from Michigan. First, you've got Mason Graham at defensive tackle. His sack numbers won't blow you away, but his disruption rate, which is how often he's moving the quarterback off his spot or just collapsing the pocket, is absolutely elite. Then you've got his teammate, Will Johnson, at corner. When quarterbacks throw his way, their efficiency just plummets. He doesn't just knock down passes, he makes receivers completely disappear.
And that's the key right there. Their real value is in what they stop from happening. Graham crushes the pocket from the inside, forcing quarterbacks to speed up their process and make mistakes. Johnson's coverage is so tight that the QB has to hold the ball, maybe try a riskier throw somewhere else. That is winning football that you will never, ever see on a stat sheet.
So when you put all these pieces together, a really clear philosophy starts to take shape. Building a winning team isn't about collecting the flashiest athletes. It's about stacking your roster with players who have skills that you know will translate to the pros.
This right here is the language every scout speaks. A translatable trait is something like Carson Beck's accuracy from a clean pocket, or Mason Graham's knack for generating interior pressure. It's a skill that doesn't care what scheme they played in college or who they played against. It's a pure football ability that's going to show up on day one.
Which brings us to this, the modern scouts checklist. Number 1, you have to ignore the hype. Just tune it out. 2, trust the right data, the metrics that actually predict success. 3, find those guys with the translatable traits. And finally, that leads you to number 4, draft for consistency over everything else. That's the process.
So why does any of this really matter? Because highlights are fun, but they don't win you a championship. Consistency does. A culture of efficiency wins you championships.
The smartest teams out there, they find incredible value in the players everyone else thinks are boring, because they know that building a team is about stacking one reliable player on top of another.
So now that you're looking through a scout's eyes, who do you see differently? Which player out there, the one that the hype machine is totally ignoring, do you think has those translatable traits to be a star? That's the real puzzle, isn't it?